So this is my first Leica. I have never owned a Leica. I've never held a Leica. I've seen people use them, but I've never held this brick in my hands before. With the first one not being what I wanted, and it's a little different shooting it. A little more refined, because I normally shoot like Russian Zorkis or Zenits, even Leningrad cameras, along with Feds and all that. So I've never owned a Leica, let alone used it, and it was interesting, I'll just put it that way. Something I'm not completely used to. Like when you look down the viewfinder, there's, on the bottom of this thing right here, there's a little mirror. So when you look into the viewfinder, you can see right on your aperture dial what aperture you're using. So all the other cameras, you essentially pick your aperture, you focus it with the scale, then you take your picture. This, you can look through the viewfinder, adjust your aperture, and then take the picture right away. Along with that, there's 3 modes: a manual, auto with spot metering, and auto with full zone metering. None of the other cameras I use have that. It's Aperture Priority, meaning you set your aperture, you push the shutter button down halfway, you focus it, whatever. When you take the picture, the camera automatically chooses the shutter speeds for you. So if you're doing street photography, you can really quickly take pictures as long as your aperture is set. Manual mode works just fine as well, if you do Sunny 16 or something along those lines. The only real issue that I've encountered, now this will be like the 4th day of using it, is here in Minnesota the weather's chilly, to say the least. This week it's been like minus 25, minus 30 Fahrenheit. Right now it's minus 8 outside. When I was doing long exposures yesterday, it was pretty chilly, probably minus 5, minus 6, and I hopped out of the car, went outside, put it on the tripod, metered for the light, took the picture. After doing this about 6 or 7 times, the shutter noticeably slowed down and got stuck a few times. Like, you take the picture, and then you hear it not fully open and not fully close. So I think that's gonna mess up the pictures that I took with it. And this happens every time when it's like below 0, even below 30s, when we've had when it was 20-some degrees out. Still the same issues, but this wouldn't be a camera I'd take out in the cold. I've tried it, doesn't work. I'd probably take something fully mechanical, because this particular camera can shoot mechanical without the battery at 1/100th of a second, which I mean isn't bad. If you have 100 ISO in there, it's basically Sunny 16. But if you're doing something at night, even the bulb isn't fully mechanical. From when I was trying yesterday, I had a shutter release, and it didn't always take the picture as soon as I pushed the release. There was like a second or 2 delay, and then when I let it go, there was a delay as well. But after the camera warms up, there's no issues now. So, but yeah, I'm fairly impressed with it. I like it. It's pretty bulky and big compared to something like this. There's a few 100 grams more weight, and it's mainly the lens. The lens is heavy. So I have one gripe with this camera, and no matter the time that I load it, no matter the like the weather outside, if it's hot or cold, I have the same problem with the camera, and that is loading it. So on a traditional SLR, this is a Zenit 12, it has these little bars for loading the film. So you slap in the film, and all you have to do is you just put in the film through this bar, advance it 2 or 3 times, camera's loaded, no problem. As the Leica has a little more involved process, in which you must, before you put the film in, you unwind it a little. You stick it through these two holes, and then you pull, stick it in here, and most of the time this thing comes out when I'm winding it. Of course, it never does it now, but there's times where this part, this leader will come out, and essentially it doesn't wind, it gets stuck. But if you, like, you can't just, like the Russian cameras, you can't just shove it in there. You have to, the whole process, as written in the instruction manual, is first you have to stick the leader this way and then pull the film that way, which essentially you expose more of your film. Because with the Russian cameras, I just shove it in there, pull the advanced lever, and I can take pictures at the, I can get probably 26 photos out of a 24 exposure roll, versus this one, I get 24 mostly, or sometimes even less if I mess up, so just something to be aware of. So in conclusion, would I recommend this? Yeah, I'd recommend the camera as long as you get the R4s and not the R4 that has the electronic issues. Just know that they're not cheap. I think the body I paid for like it was $180 without shipping. The lens was about $400, so you have a $600 camera right here. What I would recommend instead is something like this, a Zenit 11, Zenit 12. They're M42 lenses. You can get some really nice Meyer optics. You can get some really nice German glass for these, and they're all mechanical, so no matter what the weather is, I can go out and shoot when it's -30 out, or I can go shoot when it's 90 out, no issues. The Leica, anything below, I'd say 32 or 0 degrees, you're hoping for the best. Even when the camera's in the car and you only come out for a few minutes, it still takes a toll on it. Versus these, they're all purely mechanical, from the self timer to the shutter speeds. One issue that you have is you're limited to 1/1000th of a second, or 1/500th of a second. So you don't have that 1/1000th, but as long as you have a lens that can go to f/22 or f/32, you should be just fine. And learn 7016 or use a handheld light meter, and it's basically a little fancier than, or a little less fancy than the Leica, but it works much better for cheaper. Well, I hope that review of my first time using a Leica R4 was beneficial. If you're deciding to get one, or if you're looking for a second opinion, here it is. So hope to see you guys in the next one.